Today's documentary, The Trump Files. He stood on that stage in front of millions and made a promise. No more endless wars. No more American blood spilled in the Middle East. America first. The crowd roared. But what they did not know, what almost nobody was paying attention to, was what was happening behind the curtain. Because while Donald Trump was telling the American people he would keep them out of war, his administration was already laying the groundwork for one of the most dangerous military escalations in modern history. And that was only the beginning. Because the wars, the Epstein files, the billion-dollar deals, they are all connected. And by the end of this documentary, you will see exactly how. It began in the amber glow of rally floodlights, under banners that read "Promises made, promises kept." Donald Trump's voice would echo across airport hangars and sports arenas from Des Moines to Dallas, a rhythmic, unwavering refrain. "We are going to bring our troops back home," he declared in Cincinnati in August of 2019. "We are not going to be the policemen of the world. We are not starting any more stupid wars." The applause was thunderous. But in the Situation Room, in the secure offices of the Pentagon, and in the intelligence briefings that he would later dismiss, a different reality was taking shape. A reality documented in memos from the National Security Council and in the flight logs of MQ-9 Reaper drones circling above the Iraqi desert for months. The target was a man named Qasem Soleimani, the commander of Iran's Quds force, a shadowy general who shaped Tehran's influence across the Middle East. The Trump administration had spent years building what they called a maximum pressure campaign, a latticework of sanctions so severe it crippled Iran's economy, making medicine scarce and inflation soar. And then, in the final days of 2019, after a rocket attack by an Iranian-backed militia killed an American contractor in Kirkuk, the path was cleared. The authorization was given. On January 3, 2020, a Hellfire missile tore through a convoy leaving Baghdad International Airport just after 1 a.m. local time. The explosion lit up the night, vaporizing Qasem Soleimani, the Iraqi militia leader Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, and 9 other people. The world held its breath. Iran vowed severe revenge. The United States moved the USS Bataan, amphibious-ready group, into the Persian Gulf. And for 5 agonizing days, the two nations stood on the sea, knife edge of a conflict that could have drawn in the entire region. But here is where it gets worse. Because the Soleimani strike was not an isolated event. It was the culmination of a pattern, a deliberate escalation that flew directly in the face of the peacemaker rhetoric. Investigative reports from the Washington Post would later reveal that in the spring of 2019, Trump had actually approved a strike on Iran in retaliation for downing an American drone, only to call it off with minutes to spare. The pressure was building, a slow-motion collision course. And the people who paid the price were not just the soldiers on high alert. They were the Iranian civilians, suffering under maximum pressure. Reports from the International Crisis Group and Human Rights Watch detailed hospitals struggling to obtain cancer drugs, a currency in freefall, and a population pushed deeper into poverty. This was the hidden cost of a policy crafted by figures like National Security Advisor John Bolton and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Men who had long advocated for regime change in Tehran. All while the president told his supporters he was the one leader who could keep them safe from foreign entanglements. The disconnect was staggering, a chasm between the public narrative and the operational reality. And it raises a profound and unsettling question. If the public promise was peace, but the private action was a march toward war, what other gaps existed? To answer that, we must turn from the deserts of the Middle East to the private islands and gilded penthouses of New York City, where a different kind of shadow network was being woven. Now, pause on that for a moment. A president who campaigned on draining the swamp, on being an outsider who would clean up corruption. But to understand the full picture, we must examine the company he kept long before he descended the golden escalator. Our trail leads to a mansion in Palm Beach, Florida, a sprawling estate known as the Mar-a-Lago Club, and to a private island in the Caribbean, a place called Little St. James. The connection is a man named Jeffrey Epstein, documented by court records, flight logs, and contemporaneous reporting. Donald Trump's friendship with Epstein spanned the 1990s and the 2000s. They were fixtures in the same social circles. Trump told New York Magazine in 2002, and I quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy, he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women on the younger side." Epstein's Black Book of Contacts, entered into evidence in multiple court cases, listed 14 phone numbers for Donald Trump. The flight logs for Epstein's private plane, the so-called Lolita Express, show multiple trips in the early 2000s that included Trump's name. The relationship was one of mutual benefit, a blending of finance, politics, and celebrity. Epstein was a frequent guest at Mar-a-Lago. Trump, according to witnesses, but after Epstein was first arrested in Florida in 2005 on prostitution charges, the public friendship cooled. Yet the questions did not go away, because in July of 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal sex trafficking charges. He was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, a federal facility, and on August 10th, 2019, he was found dead in his cell. The official ruling was suicide. But the circumstances were so rife with procedural failures, guards asleep, cameras malfunctioning, that it spawned 1,000 conspiracy theories. The death of Jeffrey Epstein meant that a full accounting of his network, of the powerful men who frequented his homes and his island, would never happen in a court of law. It meant that victims like Virginia Giuffre, who alleged she was trafficked to numerous powerful figures, would never get to question Epstein under oath. And it left a haunting, unresolved question mark over the presidency. For the investigators and the journalists piecing the story together, the Epstein connection represented more than just a scandal. It represented a pattern of association with a shadow world of power, money, and impunity. And if that was the world the president navigated before office, what happened when he took the ultimate seat of power? The answer lies not in court transcripts from a dead financier, but in bank records, trademark offices, and sovereign wealth funds. Let us begin with Jared Kushner, the son-in-law, the senior White House advisor with a portfolio spanning the Middle East to the coronavirus response. When he left the White House in January of 2021, he formed a private equity firm called Affinity Partners. Then, in the spring of 2022, a stunning revelation broke. A panel of advisors to Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund had raised serious concerns about investing with Kushner's new firm. But those concerns were overruled. The fund, chaired by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, committed $2 billion to Affinity Partners. Now, shift your gaze to the other side of the world, to an office in Beijing, where Chinese trademark officials granted preliminary approvals to Ivanka Trump's company. These were the months and years when Ivanka served as an unpaid but highly influential advisor to her father in the West Wing. The pattern continues. Donald Trump Jr. While their father governed, Don Jr. embarked on business trips to India, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, promoting Trump-branded projects. Eric Trump ran the day-to-day operations of the Trump Organization, telling Forbes magazine he provided quarterly updates to his father. Remember those numbers. They become important. Dozens of trademarks from China. This was not a hidden conspiracy. It was a sprawling, open secret, conducted in plain sight, but obscured by the sheer chaos of the daily news cycle. The public was sold a story of a president who would fight for them. But behind the curtain, the power of the presidency was not a burden to be borne. For the Trump family enterprise, it was an asset to be monetized. The promises were for the people in the arena. The power was exercised in the closed-door meetings. And the price was paid by the very idea of a government divorced from private gain. The Trump files are not closed. They are a living testament to what happens when promise and power diverge, and to the people left to bridge the chasm in between. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, please subscribe to our channel. We bring you fascinating documentaries on history, science, civilizations. Hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss a new release. Until next time.